In the global landscape of illicit drug production, Afghanistan stands out as the world's largest producer and exporter of opium, the raw ingredient of heroin. This dominance in opium trade is far from a recent development. For decades, Afghanistan's rugged terrain and politically tumultuous landscape have fostered an environment conducive to the opium trade. Opium cultivation in Afghanistan can be traced back centuries, but it escalated dramatically during the 1980s, during the Soviet-Afghan War. Warlords and guerrilla fighters, the Mujahideen, relied heavily on opium revenues to fund their resistance against Soviet forces. The international community largely turned a blind eye to this, due to the shared interest in countering Soviet influence. After the fall of the Taliban regime in 2001, opium production spiked. The destabilization of the country post-war led to an economy deeply dependent on opium as a source of income. Despite international efforts to curb production, opium cultivation thrived due to a lack of viable economic alternatives for Afghan farmers, and rampant corruption within the Afghan government. Opium production in Afghanistan has had significant social implications. Dependency on the opium economy has trapped many farmers in a cycle of poverty and debt. The opium trade has also fueled addiction rates within Afghanistan, which are now among the highest in the world. The situation is exacerbated by a lack of sufficient healthcare infrastructure to address this public health crisis. The opium trade has also had profound political implications. Profits from opium have financed insurgent groups like the Taliban, contributing to political instability and ongoing conflict. The opium economy has been a key source of revenue, allowing these groups to finance their operations, purchase weapons, and recruit new members. The trade's profitability has also fostered widespread corruption, reaching into the highest echelons of Afghan politics. Government officials, police, and military personnel have often been implicated in the trade, siphoning off a significant portion of the revenue it generates. Efforts to eradicate opium production have largely failed due to a lack of coordinated and sustained international efforts, and the failure to address the underlying economic incentives driving opium cultivation. Poppy eradication campaigns have often backfired, as they alienate farmers without providing them with viable alternatives. Addressing Afghanistan's opium problem requires a comprehensive approach that goes beyond poppy eradication. This includes promoting alternative livelihoods for poppy farmers, improving governance and reducing corruption, and tackling drug use and addiction within Afghanistan. Developing alternative livelihoods is critical. The international community and the Afghan government need to invest in infrastructure, education, and agricultural support to make other crops competitive with opium poppies. Agricultural development programs have shown promise in some areas, but need to be expanded and adequately funded. Reducing corruption is another essential step. This requires strong political will and concerted international pressure. Efforts should be made to strengthen the rule of law, improve transparency, and hold corrupt officials accountable. Tackling drug use and addiction within Afghanistan is also crucial. This requires a significant investment in healthcare infrastructure, including drug treatment and rehabilitation centers. Public awareness campaigns about the risks of drug use are also necessary. Despite the challenges, there are reasons for cautious optimism. Some regions in Afghanistan have seen a decrease in opium cultivation due to improved security, governance, and agricultural support. These success stories provide valuable lessons that can be applied in other areas. However, as long as conflict and instability persist in Afghanistan, the opium trade is likely to remain a critical part of the country's economy. The challenge for the international community is to help Afghanistan break free from this dependency, while fostering sustainable development and stability. In conclusion, Afghanistan's opium trade is a complex issue deeply intertwined with the country's economic, social, and political fabric. Its resolution requires a comprehensive, long-term strategy that addresses not only the symptoms of the opium trade, but also its root causes. So, what does the future hold for Afghanistan's opium trade? The answer will be determined by the convergence of multiple factors: the resolve of the Afghan government and the international community, the course of Afghanistan's ongoing conflict, and the availability of viable economic alternatives for the Afghan people. As always, thank you for tuning into Middle East Info. Your support allows us to continue shedding light on these critical issues. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed.